When the last bomb exploded, John thought the worst was over, but the real hell was only beginning. Have you ever stopped to think about what happens to a soldier when the guns fall silent? When the shouts of command cease, when the smell of gunpowder finally disappears, and all that remains is silence. That heavy, suffocating silence that echoes louder than any explosion he has ever heard in combat. The truth is, nobody prepares you for this moment. Nobody teaches you how to deal with the emptiness that comes after. And what I'm going to tell you today will completely change the way you see the true cost of war. Because it's not about medals. It's not about flags waving in the wind or patriotic parades in the city streets. It's about what happens when the cameras turn off, when the headlines move on, and the veteran is left alone with his thoughts at 3 in the morning. Stay with me until the end, because this story isn't easy to hear, but it needs to be told. John returned home to Ohio after serving 2 years in the Middle East. He survived ambushes, mortar attacks, and saw friends die in his arms. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared him for what was to come. The deafening noise of war was replaced by an even crueler silence, a silence that screamed in his mind every night. And he wasn't alone. Did you know that in the United States, approximately 22 veterans take their own lives every day? 22. Let that number sink in for a moment. These are men and women who survived the horrors of the battlefield, but couldn't survive the peace. It seems impossible, doesn't it? How can silence be more deadly than combat? How can the safety of home be more terrifying than a war zone? The answer lies in something most people don't see, don't understand, and often prefer to ignore. It's in the empty eyes of a veteran who smiles politely when someone says, "Thank you for your service," but inside is drowning in memories that keep replaying like an endless horror movie. It's in the trembling hands that reach for a bottle of whiskey at 2 in the afternoon, because it's the only way to silence the screams that no one else can hear. What you are about to discover may surprise you, may shock you, but above all, it will show you something extraordinary. Because this is not just a story about pain. It's not just about trauma, abandonment, and despair. All of that exists, yes, and we will talk about every piece of this brutal reality. But what makes this journey truly impressive is what happens afterward. It's about how broken human beings, completely shattered by experiences none of us can imagine, found a way not only to survive, but to be reborn. Have you ever been through this? Have you ever felt so lost that you couldn't recognize your own life? Have you ever had the feeling that you were living in a world that no longer made sense? Then you're going to understand, at least a little, what these invisible warriors went through. And if you've never experienced anything like it, get ready, because what comes next will take you inside this reality in a way you never imagined. Because what happened to John, to Michael from Dallas, to Sarah from Chicago, to Marcus from Detroit, wasn't a miracle. It wasn't luck. It was a transformation forged in the fire of the deepest suffering a human being can experience. And that transformation began precisely when everything seemed lost, when the silence after the war became absolutely unbearable. Before we continue, I need to ask you something. And it's not just an automatic request like the ones you hear in every video. It's something that truly makes a difference. If this topic is affecting you in any way, if you know someone who has gone through this, or if you yourself have felt this kind of emptiness, this disconnection from the world around you, leave a comment below about what has touched you the most so far. It can be a word, it can be a story, it can just be an "I understand." Because when you share, when you open up, you create a chain of empathy that reaches other people who are going through exactly the same thing. And look, your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. Each like you leave isn't just a number on the screen. It's a signal to the algorithm that stories like these matter, that lives transformed by pain deserve to be heard. That's how we build a community that truly cares, that not only consumes content, but feels, reflects, and transforms together. So, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button now, because every week I bring you real stories of people who faced the impossible and found their way back. It's not about cheap motivation or ready-made phrases. It's about the raw truth of human transformation. And you deserve to be a part of it. We deserve to build this together. Now let's return to the story. Because what happened to these veterans in the weeks and months following their return home was something American society simply wasn't prepared to see. And that's precisely where the journey becomes even more intense, more painful, but also more revealing about the human capacity to withstand the unimaginable. Michael was 24 years old when he returned to Dallas. The flight back seemed endless, yet it passed too quickly. He looked out the window and tried to imagine what it would be like to walk again on the streets he had known since childhood, to see his mother's face, to hug the girlfriend who had waited for him all this time. In his mind, this return would be like in the movies. Warm hugs, tears of joy, the feeling that finally everything would go back to normal. But the truth is that normal was a word that no longer made sense in Michael's life. When the plane landed, when he walked through the airport gate and saw his family waiting there, something strange happened. He hugged each of them, smiled, said the right words. But inside, there was an immense emptiness. It was as if he were watching that scene from outside his own body. The streets of Dallas seemed different, not physically, of course. The same shops, the same traffic lights, the same trees he used to see every day. But now everything seemed strange, distant, almost unreal. It was as if he had returned to a place that was no longer his home, or worse, as if he had become someone who no longer belonged to that world. Your home, but you no longer recognize who you are. This phrase perfectly sums up what happens to thousands of veterans every year. They return physically, but a part of them is left behind, buried somewhere far away among sand, blood, and explosions. And the cruelest part is that no one around can see it. To family, to friends, to society, that soldier returned whole, but inside he is in pieces. Michael tried to resume his routine. He got a job at a logistics company, started hanging out with his childhood friends again, and tried to reconnect with his girlfriend. But nothing seemed right. The conversations about football, about parties, about who was dating whom, it all seemed so trivial, so insignificant. How could these people care about such small things when he had seen men die? When he had held the lifeless body of a comrade, still with warm blood dripping between his fingers? Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because what happens to veterans like Michael isn't just a matter of feeling displaced. It's something much darker, much more devastating. It's a condition that medicine calls post-traumatic stress disorder, the famous PTSD. And when you understand how this works in the brain, you begin to realize why the silence after war can be more cruel than combat itself. Sarah knew this better than anyone. She was a combat nurse in Chicago before enlisting, and when she was called to serve, she believed she was prepared. After all, she had seen blood, dealt with emergencies, and held people's hands in the most critical moments. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared her for what she experienced during those 18 months on the front lines. The explosions that tore bodies apart, the desperate cries of soldiers who knew they were dying, the smell of burnt flesh mixed with the smell of earth and metal. All of this was etched into her mind so deeply that it returned home with her. Sarah tried to sleep on her first night back home. She lay down on the comfortable bed in her own room, covered herself with clean sheets, felt the soft pillow under her head. But when she closed her eyes, it all came back. The screams. Those high-pitched, desperate screams of men begging for help, for their mothers, for God. She woke up in a panic, sweating profusely, her heart racing. And so it was every night. Sarah couldn't sleep without hearing the screams she had left behind. They echoed in her mind like a constant soundtrack, a cruel reminder that she may have left the war, but the war hadn't left her. The human brain is an incredible survival machine. When you're in a war zone, it goes into maximum alert mode. Every sound, every movement, every shadow can be a deadly threat, so the brain adapts, becomes hypervigilant, processes information at absurd speed, prepares the body to fight or flee at any moment. This saves lives on the battlefield. But when you return home, when you're in a safe environment, the brain can't simply switch off this mode. It continues to look for threats where none exist. It continues to prepare you for a danger that is no longer present. That's why veterans like Sarah wake up in a panic at the sound of a door slamming. That's why fireworks at New Year's Eve parties transform into mortar explosions in their minds. That's why crowds in shopping malls become terrifying environments where every person can be a potential threat. The brain is trapped in a war zone, even when the body is safe at home. And that's not weakness. It's not a lack of willpower. It's pure neurology. It's how trauma rewrites the brain's circuits. But here's the most painful part of this whole journey. When these veterans return home carrying this invisible weight, they discover something devastating. Most people simply don't understand. They can't understand. And worse, many don't even try. David discovered this the hard way. He had returned to Portland after 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan. When he came back, he was a different man. Quiet, distant, easily irritated. His wife tried to understand at first. She really tried. But how do you explain to someone who has never experienced it what it's like to wake up every night drenched in sweat, screaming at ghosts that no one else can see? How do you make someone understand that the sound of a drill in the street instantly throws you back to a day when you saw 3 friends die in an ambush? David's wife began to lose patience. She thought he was being dramatic, that he simply needed to move on. The war is over, David. You're home now. You need to get over it. Oh, get over it. As if trauma were a choice, as if PTSD were a matter of attitude. David's friends also began to distance themselves. The calls stopped coming. The invitations to barbecues, to football games, to weekend beers, everything dried up. Because nobody knows what to say to someone who is clearly suffering but can't explain exactly what. And what about society? American society has a ready-made phrase, "Thank you for your service." People say it all the time. At the supermarket, at the gas station, in restaurants when they see someone in military uniform. And look, there's nothing wrong with gratitude. But the stark truth is that for most people, that phrase is where the engagement ends. It's a way of acknowledging sacrifice without actually having to do anything about it. It's comfortable, it's easy, and it's absolutely insufficient. David lost his job because his flashbacks made it impossible to concentrate. He lost his marriage because his wife couldn't bear living with someone she no longer recognized. He lost his friends because it became too much to be around him. And when all of that crumbled, when David found himself completely alone, he realized a terrifying truth. The war wasn't over, it had only changed form. Now it was an internal war, lonely, silent, and no one was coming to help him win. This pain of isolation, this silent abandonment, is one of the most destructive forces in a veteran's life. Because when you're battling inner demons and you have no one by your side, when you cry out for help but your voice reaches no one, despair begins to take over. And it is at this point that many veterans hit rock bottom. Marcus knew this background well. A Detroit veteran, he had served honorably, earned decorations, and been celebrated as a hero upon his return. But 6 months after his return, Marcus was sleeping on the streets. How did this happen? How can someone go from decorated hero to homeless in a matter of months? The answer lies in the brutal combination of untreated trauma, lack of support, and the downward spiral that occurs when you try to silence the pain in any way possible. Marcus started drinking. At first, it was only at night to be able to sleep. Then it became afternoon drinking as well, to cope with the paralyzing anxiety that consumed him. Eventually, it was all day, every day. Alcohol was the only thing that made the voices stop, that calmed the flashbacks, that made existence minimally bearable. But alcohol doesn't solve trauma, it only buries it deeper. And while Marcus drowned his memories in cheap vodka, his life crumbled around him. He lost his apartment because he could no longer afford the rent. He lost contact with his family because he became someone they no longer wanted around. He lost his dignity when he had to start begging for money on street corners in the same city that once applauded him. And the most surreal part? People passed him every day, hurriedly going to work, to their comfortable homes, to their normal lives. Nobody saw Marcus. Nobody recognized in him the veteran who had risked his life for the country. He had become invisible. For 3 years, Marcus slept on the streets of Detroit. 3 brutal winters, 3 scorching summers, 1,095 days of invisibility. And he wasn't alone. It's estimated that around 40,000 veterans live on the streets of the United States on any given night. 40,000. People who served, who sacrificed, who returned home and discovered that home was no longer there to welcome them. And here is the most devastating statistic of all. On average, 22 American veterans die by suicide every day. 22. This means that while society goes about its routine, while people go to work, take children to school, watch TV at night, 22 veterans make the decision that the pain is too great to continue. They survived combat, explosions, attacks, situations that would test the limits of any human being, but they could not survive the silence that followed. Marcus came close to that point several times. There were nights when he stood on the edge of the bridge over the Detroit River, staring at the dark water below, thinking it would be easier to simply jump. There were days when he gathered up pills he had somehow managed to get his hands on, piling them up beside him, ready to end that agony once and for all. What stopped him? He himself doesn't quite know. Maybe fear. Maybe a last vestige of hope buried so deep that even he didn't know it still existed. But something changed, and this is where the story begins to take a different turn. Because in the midst of all this darkness, at the bottom of this pit of despair, a spark appeared. Small, fragile, almost imperceptible, but a spark nonetheless. For Marcus, it was a social worker named James who stopped on the street where he used to stay. James didn't say, "Thank you for your service," and move on. He sat next to Marcus, offered him coffee, and said 3 words Marcus hadn't heard in years. "I see you. I see you." Not as a problem, not as a number, not as a lost cause, as a human being who matters, who has value, who deserves to be seen. Jessica from Miami experienced her breakthrough in a different way. After months locked in her house, avoiding any human contact, drowning in depression and anxiety, she finally accepted an invitation from a former battalion colleague to attend a veterans support group. She went without any expectations, thinking it would be a waste of time. But when she entered that room and saw other female veterans, when she heard stories that seemed like exact copies of her own experience, when she realized she wasn't alone, that she wasn't crazy, that what she felt had a name, and that other people felt it too, something broke inside her. For the first time in months, Jessica cried, and crying was the beginning of healing. For other veterans, the spark came from a therapist who truly understood combat trauma. For some, it was a support animal, a trained dog that could sense when a panic attack was coming on and intervened before the veteran collapsed. For still others, it was something as simple as a person who didn't give up on them, who kept calling, kept showing up, kept saying, "You matter," until they began to believe it. Change is never dramatic at the beginning. It's not like in the movies, where the character has a sudden revelation and is suddenly healed. The reality of transformation is much more subtle, much more gradual. It's a series of small decisions, small steps, small victories that eventually add up to something bigger. Robert from Boston began his journey of reconstruction simply by agreeing to go to a consultation with a therapist specializing in PTSD. That was it. One consultation. He didn't believe it would work, but he went anyway. And in that first session, he hardly spoke. He just sat there listening to the therapist explain how trauma works in the brain. But that planted a seed. The idea that what he was feeling wasn't weakness, wasn't a character flaw, but a natural neurological response to traumatic events. The following weeks were a slow process of building trust, of beginning to talk about things Robert had buried so deep he could barely admit them to himself. Therapy wasn't comfortable. In fact, it was painful. Reliving memories, processing emotions he had blocked for so long, facing the truth about how much he was suffering, it was all exhausting. But it was necessary. Robert also started taking medication to help with his anxiety and depression, and that was another important step. Because in military culture, especially among men, there's a huge stigma surrounding mental health. Admitting you need help is seen as weakness. Taking psychiatric medication is considered shameful. But Robert learned a fundamental truth. Taking care of your mental health is just as important as taking care of a broken leg. There's no shame in treating an illness. And then came the part that truly transformed Robert's life, reconnecting with purpose. For months, he had felt useless, worthless, as if his life no longer had any meaning, but his therapist challenged him to find something, anything, that would give meaning to his days. Robert started small. He volunteered at a local shelter for homeless veterans, helping to serve meals once a week. And there, seeing other veterans who were struggling just as he had struggled, something clicked. Robert realized he wasn't just surviving for himself. He was surviving so he could help others survive too. His pain, his trauma, everything he had been through could be transformed into something useful. He could use his experience to make a difference in the lives of other veterans. And that reconnection with purpose was what truly gave Robert a reason to keep rebuilding. And here's a profound truth that Robert and so many other veterans have discovered. It's not about overcoming the war. It's not about forgetting what happened or pretending everything is okay. It's about learning to live with the scars in a functional way. It's about integrating the trauma into your story without letting it define your entire identity. It's about accepting that you will never be the same person you were before the war, but that you can become someone new, someone strong in a different way. Amanda from Seattle discovered this in a way that saved not only her own life, but hundreds of others. After years of battling PTSD, after 3 suicide attempts, after losing almost everything, Amanda finally found help. She underwent intensive treatment, worked with specialized therapists, participated in support groups, and did everything she needed to begin healing. And when she began to see light at the end of the tunnel, when she realized it was possible to survive and even thrive after the trauma, she made a decision that would change everything. Amanda created a non-profit organization dedicated to preventing suicide among veterans. She called it 022, in reference to the 22 veterans who die by suicide every day, with the mission of bringing that number to 0. The organization offers a 24-hour support hotline, in-person and online support groups, connections with specialized therapists, and most importantly, a community of veterans who understand exactly what each person is going through. In its first 5 years, Amanda's organization had already helped over 800 veterans find appropriate treatment. Of those, at least 50 admitted they were planning to take their own lives when they first made contact. 50 lives saved. 50 people who are here today because of Amanda's courage in transforming their pain into purpose. And Amanda is not alone in this impossible transformation. Tom from Houston went from a homeless, heroin-addicted veteran to a motivational speaker who travels the country sharing his story and inspiring other veterans to seek help. He speaks at schools, on military bases, at conferences, always with the same message: you are not alone, there is hope, and transformation is possible. Lisa, who served as a helicopter pilot and returned with severe PTSD, became a therapist specializing in combat trauma. She uses her own experience to connect with veterans in a way that civilian therapists never could. When she says, "I understand," her patients know it's true. She really understands, and that authenticity creates a life-saving space for healing. Kevin, a veteran from San Francisco, channeled his trauma into art. He began painting as a form of therapy, and his works depicting his war experience and PTSD have gained national recognition. Now he teaches art therapy to other veterans, showing that creativity can be a powerful path to processing and healing. These transformations are not miracles. They are the result of decision, hard work, adequate support, and a refusal to give up even when all seemed lost. Each of these people reached points where it would have been easier to simply end the pain once and for all, but they chose to continue. And that choice, repeated day after day, eventually led them to a place where they not only survived, but flourished in ways they never imagined possible. And you know what these stories teach us? That true resilience isn't about never falling. It's not about being strong enough not to break. True resilience is about getting up even when you're completely destroyed. It's about finding strengths you didn't even know you had when all the obvious sources of strength have already been exhausted. It's about continuing to breathe, continuing to fight, even when every fiber of your being wants to give up. And vulnerability is not weakness. In fact, it's one of the deepest forms of courage. Admitting your suffering, asking for help when you need it, opening your heart and showing your wounds to someone, this requires tremendous strength. Military culture teaches that you have to be tough, that emotions are weaknesses, that asking for help is an admission of failure. But the truth is exactly the opposite. Asking for help is an act of supreme courage. The war revealed who these veterans truly were in the most extreme moments imaginable. But it was the peace, the silence after the war, the journey of reconstruction that taught them even deeper lessons. It taught them that strength comes in many forms. It taught them that healing is possible, even when it seems impossible. It taught them that purpose can be found even in the deepest pain. It taught them that human connection, genuine empathy, and community are powerful forces for transformation. These soldiers faced two enemies. The first was on the battlefields, armed, visible, compatible with tactics and training. The second was within them, invisible, insidious, much more difficult to face. And they overcame both, not because they were superhuman, not because they had some special power, but because, deep down amidst all that suffering, they found something essential: the will to live, the capacity to transform, and the courage to ask for help. These stories matter. They matter because they remind us of the true nature of the sacrifice veterans make. They matter because they challenge our simplistic notions of strength and weakness. They matter because they show that transformation is always possible, no matter how low you've fallen, no matter how broken you feel, no matter how many times you've tried and failed. And perhaps the most important lesson of all is this: no one should have to make this journey alone. Marcus didn't have to sleep on the streets for 3 years. David didn't have to lose everything before finding help. Sarah didn't have to suffer in silence night after night. If society were prepared, if there were adequate support, if people truly understood what these veterans face, so many lives could be saved, so much suffering could be avoided. But even in the absence of perfect support, even in a system that frequently fails its veterans, Transformation still happens because the human spirit is resilient in ways that defy comprehension. Because even in the deepest darkness, a spark of hope can ignite a fire of change. Because people care, communities form, and together we can create support networks that save lives. Comment below. Transformation is possible if you believe that no one is too lost to start over. If you've made it this far, I know this topic has touched you in some way. Maybe you know someone who's been through this. Maybe you yourself are going through a similar journey, not necessarily one of war, but of rebuilding after something that broke you. And if that's the case, I want you to know that I see you. Just as James saw Marcus on that street in Detroit, I see you through these words. This channel exists precisely for that reason, to share real stories of people who transform pain into purpose, who found light even when everything seemed completely dark. Every week I bring content like this, that goes beyond the surface, that touches on what really matters in the human experience. So if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button now. Not because I need numbers, but because you deserve to have access to this kind of content whenever you need it. And comment below. I'm with you until the end. This shows me that we're building something real here, a community of people who don't run from the truth, who understand that vulnerability is strength, who believe in transformation. Your comment makes all the difference. And of course, if this story touched you, leave a like. It's not just about algorithms. It's about recognizing that these lives, these journeys, these transformations deserve to be seen and honored. There's a video over here that complements this topic in a way that will surprise you. Click and continue watching it. See you in the next video.